Okay, there's that one. And all right, we look like we're live, Doc. We're live on all the
Okay.
places. Good morning. How you doing this morning?
I am feeling some feels, but I'm be all right.
I know that feeling.
hmm
Feeling some feels. I
hmm
am also feeling some feels, but as you
hmm
said, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. I
hmm
think today's conversation is a little different because we're live on Instagram, my personal Instagram, which I've never done anything really with my personal Instagram, which says a lot. Uh, oh wow, okay, hmm. And YouTube of Check Your Privilege and the Facebook page of Check Your Privilege. So,
hmm
how you doing?
Yeah, like I said, just feeling the feels. It's been an interesting. I always don't know what time frame you because it's like hours, days, weeks, months, years. It's been a lot for a nice amount of time. Yeah, I can't hear you. You on mute.
Because I
Oh,
muted
yeah.
myself. Should you be surprised?
hmm
Um,
I think that's symbolic.
oh, you trying to be funny? Hey
I'm,
Tondi, I don't, you might not. My friend Tondi is watching. I'll
mm,
DM you my number so you have it. Um, hey, Rochelle says hello to both of us, but we're here to talk about owning your story, and I think it's going to be a pretty powerful conversation because it's about helping me have courage to really own the story and tell the
mm.
truth. And I don't know, Doc, where do we start?
I think we can start about why it's important to own your story because one thing I've shared before is that if you own your story, no one can use it against you, no one can manipulate you with it, no one can hold it over your head, and you get to determine how you want your story told, right? You
Mhm.
know, and a lot of times we don't because shame keeps a lot of us silent, right? That's what shame does. It keeps us in a silo, and having the courage to put it out there is so liberating, right? You're free because it's like, well, shit, it's out there now. Hey, it is what it is. And so I think it's important to talk about why owning our story is a thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about it. What I think owning the story, I think the piece that sticks out to me right now is how much shame can keep you silent and keep for me.
Mm-hmm.
Shame can keep me silent and keep me in fear of speaking the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it can get really easy to go hide
Mm-hmm.
because you have more fear of someone else speaking your story that you haven't owned
Mm-hmm.
than that I haven't owned
Mm-hmm.
than just doing it, just getting it out there. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about my late teens, early 20s self and how for a lot of my young adulthood, like I said, I gave myself away mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. And I asked myself, I'm like, Yolanda, are you ashamed of who you were then? And I had to sit with it because I'm like, am I ashamed?
mm,
Because sometimes we don't even ask ourselves the question, we just avoid it altogether.
yeah,
And I was like, I don't think I'm ashamed of her. I'm sad for her, right?
mm,
Um, because she was just so disconnected from self and she just found herself in situations where it was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I even here? What is this? So yeah, and I've shared some of that story. I haven't shared all of it, and I don't know if I will. You know what I mean? That's another thing about when you share your story, you get to determine how much of it you share. What parts you share. So yeah, I grieve for younger Yolanda. Yeah.
hmm. Yeah, there definitely was parts of my younger self that I haven't. There is to grieve.
Mhm.
I think it's you grieve like as I get a parenting. I have a 20-year-old now. Whoa,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm grieving the 20-year-old mom, like
Mhm.
the mom of 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And I told myself, Maya Angelou said it. She said, you might have something to the words of like, yeah, okay, you probably was a hot mess mom when your kids were younger, but now you can be present. So
Mm-hmm.
just that reminder was helpful, like owning that part of like, damn, that
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But
Yeah.
now we can go forward, right?
We said a hot mess. Shit. Sometimes I'm a hot mess right now. You know what I mean?
I mean, if we
Sometimes
keep
I'm
it
a hot
real,
mess. Yeah, I was just thinking today, like, and then I think about why that is, or where does that come from? Because there's a different type of fatigue when it's like soul fatigue, right? Where you just start to question, like, does any of this shit matter for real? Like, does it
mhm,
matter if I get up and put some clothes on? Does it matter if I clean up this house? Does any of this really matter for real? Because it don't really feel like I matter. So why does any of this other stuff matter, right? Why put in any effort? And so sometimes I still battle that when I'm thinking about my worthiness. And Linda, you can get up and do the basic hygiene things, brush your teeth, all that other shit, because you exist. You don't have to
right.
earn care for yourself, you know? Yeah.
I think I struggle with that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talking about just it's easy to put everybody else before myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's easy to try to keep up with the Joneses and try
Mm-hmm.
to um, sacrifice myself
Mm-hmm.
for everybody. So that means like not brushing my teeth, not combing my hair,
Mm-hmm.
making sure there's food on the table,
Mm-hmm.
working, 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 working. Oh, that was a big one in my life. Work, connecting value to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of times where I think of the hot messes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It just evolves.
Yeah. And when I think about like just like basic hygiene and stuff like that, I think about our relationship with our body, And if you're
Hmm.
someone who have had body-based trauma, or just have lived in situations where just being in your body didn't feel the safest for whatever reason, sometimes it can be easier to neglect that relationship, right? Because it was never a good one, or maybe it was at some point and it turned shitty, you know what I mean? And so I think
Hmm.
about that as well. So I own my story around my trigger warning. I don't know if that's actually helpful or not. There's been stories about or research that's saying trigger warning actually fuck people up more than just having the conversation. But
Wow.
yeah, like seeing trigger warning actually like
It
because now
makes you
you're
flinch.
nervous.
Oh,
Yeah,
it does, because you're like, what's she about to say? That makes
exactly.
sense.
Exactly. And so my history of sexual trauma and really thinking about how it has impacted a lot of my relationships, including my relationship with my body. And sometimes it's just I get tired of the fucking struggle. Like, am I ever going to be over this shit? Like, am I going to continue to be in this process of having to heal, right? As we talk about heal your way forward and heal on purpose, it's like, yeah, to some degree, and that's okay, right? That you don't have to beat yourself up for still being in process. That's just part of it, you know? You muted yourself again.
No, I think I love that you brought up the body, right? Because there is so much that I hold in my body. Like I
Mhm.
do, oh, I'm gonna take care of my health and this and that. And it's like, but what's my body holding on to? Like
Mhm.
I could walk 3 miles a day, I could eat and not lose weight
Mhm.
because my body is holding on to those old stories
Mhm.
and it's holding on to like, what else is it holding on to? There's so much.
Mhm. Yeah. If you think about like just as women getting older, like the menopause and all that, the cortisol, the stress, systemically, societally, what the fuck is happening? There's no wonder that our body is in protest. It's
Yeah.
in protest, and it's not functioning the way we might want it to, but it's probably functioning the way it needs to in order to survive, you know. And although we might not like the way it looked, it's most likely for purpose, because I'm in the same predicament where it's like I do the things, I work out, and it's like ain't nothing happening, and then I feel bad about myself, right? So then you got this
Right.
cycle of, then it's depression, then it's blah blah blah, versus taking a step back and befriending the body and say, hey, we're having a tough time, what do we need in this moment, um,
Mhm.
and listening. not projecting what you think you need, but actually listening to your body cues.
Absolutely. I think that's part of owning the story is like owning the body story too. Because I think when we hear story, you're like, oh, well, the journey. But like, the body piece is so real right now. It's what I was working on Substack about, like how the first day that, just an example using the whole Instagram thing with the check your privilege account. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been sick. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, can't let that stress me out. I just
Mm-hmm.
gotta be okay. And then it was getting like, I was getting, feeling my feelings, which we're supposed to, like, that's healthy. And I
Mm-hmm.
went to do a sauna and just sweat it and just
Mm-hmm.
sweat it. And I feel like so much came out from that sweat
Mm-hmm.
just by like being in the body and trusting like my body's wisdom to just release what doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday it was just like I was a little bit sadder,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I had to call my mom because I'm just like, what the heck is happening?
Mm-hmm.
It's always good to get the reminders, part of the story. Sometimes I forget my own story. So I have to go to people who've lived it with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, girl, you know how many times you done started over your life? You know how many times, like, think about how many times you moved. Think about
Mm-hmm.
how many babies you got. Think about
Mm-hmm.
all the relationships that ended. You
Mm-hmm.
know how to start over. If they give it back to you, great. If they don't, great. Start
Mm-hmm.
over. And if it's not starting over, just use what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that helped my body relax and get me back to a sense of, okay, I'm grieving and I'm grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally just grieving and grateful. Because I've been
Mm-hmm.
grieving for about, as you know, about a year, not
Mm-hmm.
longer.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the part of the story is I haven't talked about what I'm grieving. I've kind of threw it out there, but like I
Mm-hmm.
had to work. So you got to put on your persona, and I got to work. So I can't tell you everything, but I'll tell it to you when I got time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's set up when you think about like the aesthetics and everything of social media, it's such a double-edged sword because people want you to be relatable, but not too relatable. You know what I mean? Because if you fucked up and I'm fucked up, how are you gonna help me with you know what I mean? It's like it's at the end of the day, the easiest thing is just to be your fucking self. Because trying to figure out all the rules, all of the things you can and can't do, or what's gonna help you get seen and views and what's not, it's like it's just too much to manage. And the only thing it does is add more stress to the body. So just be yourself. And those who resonate, resonate. Because one thing I think about with telling your story, right? If someone's going to try and use your story against you, first of all, that just says more about them. Because if you're going to use my story to kick me while I'm down or try and bring me low, that says more about you than it does about me. And you're going to have people who going to want the tea, right? Because people know this fuck. They're like, ooh, guess what I heard? You know what I mean? And people who are not going to want to work with you or be associated with you because of your story. But guess what? They never fucked with you in the first place. So who did you actually lose? Because if people fucked with you in the first place and they know what you've experienced, they know your story, they're not going to use it against you because they rock with you, right? They will use it against you because they never rocked with you in the first place. They were just looking for a reason because they didn't like you, but they probably didn't know why they didn't like you. But now they got a reason to not like you, so they didn't fuck with you in the first place. So you ain't lost nobody. That's how I feel about
I don't even got nothing to say because you're right. Here's the thing, like what you just said was so dope. Just like if somebody can use the part of your story,
it.
right? I think Toni Morrison said something like this: you gotta knock somebody down to puff yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta knock somebody down and like make yourself feel good. You're
Mm-hmm.
right, Doc. It does say a lot about the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what you share with me is when you own parts of your story, it don't even matter who, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
People are nosy. This was so helpful. People are nosy, and there are times where you can really see who has your who fucks with you or who has your back. And
Mm-hmm.
boy, I tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been talking about this for a while, talking about telling my story, just really paying attention to folks. Just really like, what is this? Is this a friendship or is this? Are you a what's like monitoring spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Figure out my next move.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I did an example of this. This was a while ago on Instagram. I did a reel about what it looks like if someone hears your story from you versus someone else. And I used my example of my teen years or my 20s, like, based off my sexual trauma, my relationship with my body was very, like, I don't even want to know if you want to say toxic or love hate, but in a bid to have some type of power, I was out here in these streets, kind of, you know what I mean? Somebody might even kind of say I was a hoe, you know what I mean? And if I was to tell my stories, like, yeah, I was really sacrificing myself and I was really devaluing myself, and I got into situations which ultimately didn't feel good to me on any level, right? You know, and I've learned a lot, and I grieve Yulinda because she didn't even know why she was doing it, because as low key as it's kept, I had a low libido. I wasn't even getting shit out of it at the end of the day. So it was like, what the fuck? You know, but if you heard that same story from someone else, like, guess what? Yolanda was out here hoeing. She was a fucking hoe. You know what I mean? Like, if you heard my story from someone else first, what would be your viewpoint of me versus me telling you, like, yeah, you know, my trauma had me out here looking bad for a couple of years. You know what I mean? And I'm still recovering from the backlash, or I don't even want to say backlash, but from the spiritual damage that did. You know what I mean? I'm still recovering. But can't nobody hold that over me because I just told you. So now what? You know what I mean? Who gonna check me, boo? Now bye.
I mean, that makes so much sense. Just the way you just told the story was like, this is what I'm grieving, this is what happened, and now what? What does that mean? And who and like, that's just really powerful. Just that part of like, you know, there's so much, right? Like, I remember when the Me Too movement came out and I was crying, I was talking to my mom, and we were just talking. It was before, this was actually when I was pregnant with my first son, and I was telling her about some of my life experiences and something that happened to me in my teenage years, you know what I'm saying? Uh, being with the daughter of the CEO in a company and some harm I experienced. And she said, I would have quit my job to make sure that you were okay. And just holding on to so many secrets, you know, of youth and not opening up about them. It's so detrimental to the spirit and soul. Like, I was young too. I got 3 kids, two different folks. I done told this story in writing. I got 3 kids with 2 different people. Welfare, food stamps, Section 8, right? There's that whole story. And of course, there's always somebody that's like, well, you know, that's, you know, my mom was a single mom. So she was a single mom. So, you know, there's that, oh, that's, you know, that's the single mom's daughter. So she gonna be fucked up anyway. You understand how many of those stories I've heard in my life. But it's nothing I can do about it. I've grown and I'm still recovering from that. Like, I feel like it feels like almost like the first half of your life are all these experiences. And then you spend the middle half like recovering. And then that last half, you just like, all right, let's just live. It shouldn't have to be that way, right? But like, I'm grateful that it is.
Yeah, you got to bump your head a couple of times. You know, I mean, we don't have a damn map. You know, there's no blueprint to figure this stuff out, especially if you come from a family where they were also trying to figure their shit out at the same time they were attempting to raise you. You know, there were some pieces that were missing, and it just is what it is. And when we talk about owning our stories, it's also owning our shadows, right? We talk about shadows. And for me, I know I have an addictive personality. So I attempted to stay away from certain substances. You know what I mean? It got real for a minute in my, pregnant, after I had my first kid. I like wine. I used to like it a whole lot. You know what I mean? I used to, a bottle or so a day, you know, potentially. I wouldn't keep in count. But I recognized that me trying to distance myself from my current relationship, right? I mean, hey, he's not here. My ex-husband has passed on, so I don't take too much because he ain't, you know, I don't say too much. But that 10 years was toxic as fuck. I can say that. And so in a way to try and soothe myself or just escape, right? I would take it to the head, you know? And then I finally, and it's so interesting, I can't even tell you what happened for me to finally pause and be like, Yolanda, this ain't what we want to do, right? We got to kind of take a step back. You got this little girl here looking at you in your face, and you're not present for her, you know? And it's so interesting to think that for a lot of parents, our way back to ourself isn't even because of us, but it's because of our kids, right? Yeah. Like, I didn't heal for me, you know what I mean? It's like, That might be fucked up to say, but it's the reality. I didn't heal for me. I did it for them. And I just happen to be benefiting from it, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, you know.
True. What a story. Talk about alcohol. Oh, I can connect to that. So using it as a survival strategy,
Mm-hmm.
using it to survive all the things you're going through in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I started drinking at 17 in
Mm-hmm.
high school. We come to school with a clear plastic water bottle with vodka in it. 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like that's so powerful, like that the children are the teachers. It's like you give birth to them, but like they are the ones that are like, hey, here's the
Mm-hmm.
mirror, here's the mirror, here's the mirror. You just like, God damn,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to see it no more.
That part. Can you put the mirror
Stop,
away, please? Shit.
stop showing me this. Stop showing me this, you know. But we have to have them, you know, even in your relationships, friendships. I know for me, like, you know what got me stopped drinking?
Hmm.
The Renaissance tour Beyonce.
Hmm. Okay.
That was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was a fumbling fool,
Mm-hmm.
causing harm.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mess. I
Mm-hmm.
was a mess at that Beyonce concert and afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
causing harm, disrupting the peace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink brown liquor.
Mm.
I know not to drink brown alcohol because it just doesn't do anything with me. But like you, I was drinking wine all the time. But for me, it was a coping strategy with work.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when I say work, I can go all the way even back to the church. But I've been
Mm.
drinking since I was 17. But like I'm at the church. I'm the single mom. I'm the deacon. I'm going to be a pastor. I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm taking kids to all these therapies. It's just me and these kids. I have some supports from family, right? But like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
alcohol's kept me working. When George Floyd died, you know how I was able to work every day for almost 4 years?
Mm.
Alcohol.
Mm.
Gotta have my coffee with my Baileys,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
my coffee with my Irish coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You
That
couldn't
sound,
even
that
tell.
sound like that tastes good, but I already know it's a problem.
It's a problem. It's good. It's great. Okay.
This sound
I'm not
tasty.
gonna lie to you. There are days where I'm just like, I could just put a little, I can't even drink coffee no more. So
Mm.
I can't put nothing in nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But like owning that part of the story or owning how overworking like tore my family up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I've overworked my whole life. So
Mm-hmm.
I literally have almost worked till I'm killing myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I look at Check Your Privilege and I'm like, what the fuck I do all that for?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like that is what's coming up for me. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I did all that work and now look at my family.
Mm-hmm.
I did all that work and look at this.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, oh, but I'm doing it's I got a new way now, being sober almost year and a half, almost 2 years, and like building connection with you and like going through like one of your programs and like I'm just like, oh, this was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like owning that part of the story gets me to that exciting part of the story.
Mm, I like that. I like the way you said that. It reminds me a little bit of my, because parenting is the hardest damn job I've ever done in my life. You know, I didn't want kids as a youth. I didn't want to get married or none of that. But when my kids ask me, like, do you regret or whatever, I'm like, truth be told, as traumatizing as my marriage was, if I didn't have y'all, I wouldn't be here. Like thinking about who I was
Mm,
at 22, 23 years old and how I was just like, woohoo, don't want. I was on my way to Houston, Texas when I met my ex-husband. And to think about like how we met, it had to be orchestrated. The universe was like, oh, you down there fucking up. Let us, hold on, throw a kid or two or three at her to sit her ass down so she has some roots. You know what I mean? She has something to live for, right? Because I was just out here, like out here, you know what I mean? And I can only imagine if I took my 22, 3-year-old ass to Texas with no family, no nothing, I don't think I would have made it. Like my kids are the reason I'm here. Like,
mm.
I mean, that might sound, all sentimental and shit, but it's real talk. Because Yolanda at 23 in Houston, the way she was acting, would not have survived. Right?
Listen, you're not telling me nothing I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I got pregnant. My first son is the testament of going back to college, getting a 4.0, and getting my whole life together.
Mm-hmm.
Baby, the way I was drinking,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
18, 19, 20, going to homecoming. Girl, stop playing.
Mm-hmm.
Stop playing. But I've
Yeah.
caused a lot of just hearing you talk about just the kid, back to the kids. They are
Mm-hmm.
like you give birth to them, like they come through, but it's almost like they're messengers. And for those
Mm-hmm.
who don't have kids and not interested in it, totally understand. And for those of you who can't have children, much compassion out for you. But yeah, I know for sure. Like that's how I was hospitalized when I went to the psychiatric ward. That's what got
Mm-hmm.
me. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, the girl said to me, "You want to get out this hospital, follow the program. Okay.
That part.
You want to go home, do what they tell you to do. Take the medicine,
Mm-hmm.
journal,
Mm-hmm.
write,
Mm-hmm.
do whatever they tell you to do." I was in there for 7 days. I'm like, it felt like forever.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got back to my kids, I was like, huh.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I relapsed a few times. That's how I ended up back west in California.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I ended up, doing all the work I do now. But
Mm-hmm.
it was through motherhood. It was through motherhood that I learned about ABA therapy and autism and auditory processing disorder. My
Mm-hmm.
mom didn't know none of it. I was an autistic, selectively mute child, and my mom just thought
She
my
just
mom would
being
tell me
her.
right now. I would walk around, Doc, and I would like point and grunt.
Mm.
I had no language.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's like she looks at me now and it's just like, shut up. No. But
Right. Because we mirroring them, right? Shit.
right, right, right,
Mm-hmm.
right. But the kids are the gift. They are the teacher. And I think for me too, sometimes I walk around the world and I'm like, it's just me and these kids. I ain't got nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have nobody. It's just me and these kids. But
Mm-hmm.
I do got somebody because
Mm-hmm.
they are the lesson for my healing.
Mm-hmm.
Just hearing you share that, like, damn,
I mean,
that's
sometimes
what
them
you
gifts get on
did.
your goddamn nerves, though. I love my children, and also this shit hard as fuck. You know what I mean? Like these, I say like blessings wrapped in barbed wire, right? Because
Right.
this shit is not easy. And the reason I began my journey with like therapeutic BDSM and all that other stuff is because of my own rage issues, right? Like I'm either chilling, I'm the most laid back person you ever met, until I'm not, right? Like I go, and my rage is a different, and it takes my youngest child, she's so funny. She was like, because I told myself I wouldn't go and take my rage out on my kids physically, and I haven't. But my mouth used to be, I just yelling, And it was one day they pissed me off, and I took like the laundry basket and I threw it, right? And it takes my younger child, like, yeah, mom, remember that time you lost your mind? She's like, remember that time you went crazy? I was like, oh hell no.
Man.
So I'm like, yeah. She's like, you was upset. I'm like, yeah, it pissed me off that day. But I can laugh at it now, and I'm proud of myself because I threw a laundry basket. I didn't throw a kid. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, the way we were raised, you know what I mean? Some of us, it's like that was normal, putting your hands on kids. And so I give myself kudos for having that level of restraint while also learning new coping skills, and yelling and cussing and throwing stuff ain't the best way to do it, right? So it's like that both and.
Oh, girl, I've been yelling, cussing, throwing stuff as recently as I slowed down after I stopped drinking
Well,
because
there you
that's all
go.
you know. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
like I grew up in a yelling household.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I turned 18, my mom went through her process that I'm going through, and I'm like, girl, we can't be friends until I got pregnant. Everything circle of life,
Mm-hmm.
circle of life, right? That then
Mm-hmm.
it all changes. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like. Yeah, man, the parenting is not easy. It's like for me, it's almost like looking at like when I look at my son, my oldest son,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I don't do with the other two. So then
Mm-hmm.
when he has his moments, I'm like, I did that at 20. I said
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that to my mom at 20.
Mm-hmm.
I, he could get out of order though. I know how to cut that phone off.
That part.
But it's hard. Parenting is
Mhm.
hard.
You know what else is hard?
Hmm.
This work entrepreneurship is hard. Like, who told our silly ass to do this? Who told us? I'm like, I should go to Target. No, we ain't doing Target. Okay, so not Target. I
Not
don't fuck with
Target.
Walmart either. Like, so some big ass store where I could go work at and be the damn cashier or something, because this entrepreneurship is its own type of spiritual process. Like it will drag you by your eyebrows. If you want to be successful and moral in entrepreneurship, you
That's
heard
the
me.
part.
Yeah.
Successful and moral. You can be successful. Okay.
Hmm.
We can
Hmm.
show up. Listen, sis, I'm just going to say,
Hmm.
we could be a millionaire by the end of this year if we wanted to.
Hmm.
That comes with, but when you have morals
Hmm.
and you don't see people as paychecks or projects,
Hmm.
your journey is a little bit different.
It's, man, I was going through it today. I told one of my, I call them, we're all stewards of this work we're doing, and I was like, you know what? I'm having one of those days where I'm like, why the fuck am I even doing this? This is dumb. Like, this is stupid. Why am I even putting forth all this effort? Why am I putting forth all this time, investing my money? What if it goes absolutely nowhere because no one gives a fuck? Like, I should just quit. Like, that was this morning, like literally before we got on this call. And they was like, there's a lot that we're up against, societally, historically, but you're not by yourself. I was like, okay, onward. All right. But I had a moment.
I'm here. I'm ready. Tell me what you need me to do. You know I'm ready. You just tell me one thing. I have to let's go. I think entrepreneurship is incredibly hard because you're not always blessed to find your sister sign in the work that you do. It is very isolating. It is very. It can be like when I think about it from the lens of like a systemically,
Mhm.
you could just be sitting there and know you said something,
Mhm.
and you see 10 other people say it, and they like you be like, but that
Mhm.
uh, it entrepreneurship is the biggest confidence booster if
Mhm.
you have low self-esteem.
Mhm.
It is for me, I'm learning, Doc, that this is the self-love journey.
Mhm.
Motherhood and entrepreneurship.
Mhm. And actually,
Because
I
let me
did
tell you,
both.
some things are here today and gone tomorrow.
Mhm.
And to wake up, to do a live
Mhm.
on boundaries and
Mhm.
discarding people and how we need each other. And then next thing you know, your account is gone.
Mhm.
It's like, do I love myself enough to just keep going and just show up as myself?
Mhm.
It is easy. It's easy to show up as check your privilege. That's a whole damn brand that has a whole damn audience. That's a whole damn message that I know how to perform.
Mhm. Boop.
I
Boop.
can write in books about how real action is a performance.
Mhm.
I know how to perform. We
Mhm.
all do.
Mhm.
That's what work is, right?
Mhm.
But when I tied my value up, my value was tied into that. A
Mhm.
few weeks ago we had our team healing retreat, and I was like, I divorced this shit.
Mhm.
Well, you better be careful what the fuck you say. I
Man.
forget sometimes, and you have to remind me, Maisha, you
Mhm.
might want to reverse that.
Mhm.
Because I'll say
Mhm.
something and then I'll be like, oh,
Yeah, you need to be more specific.
oh. Because now I'm like, I divorced the enmeshment
Uh-huh.
and I can call it back because now it's not just my face anymore. There's like you and other folk that I could bring into, we're going to use the big platform together and this is what we're going to do. Other than
Mhm.
that, let it be what it's going to be and I can still be me. So I think entrepreneurship is a hard journey. And you
Mhm.
get to learn really, are you performing? For me, it's am I performing? Do I love
Mhm.
myself?
Mhm.
We got the show up challenge that we've done together. Thank
Mhm.
you. And
Mhm.
it's the owning the story. Isn't this part of the show up challenge? Oh,
Mhm.
oh,
It sure,
I can't get away from that.
it sure is. It sure is. Yeah. It's the third week. Own your shit. Yeah, sure is. Sure is. And you know what? With the entrepreneurship thing, like you said, with the performance, and it's so funny. How you gonna perform authenticity? I tried. When I first came, I was like, I don't give a fuck with no better thing. I'm like, girl, calm down. You're doing a lot to prove that you don't care, ain't you? You're doing a lot. So how about just not caring versus performing that you don't care what people think? So it's been a journey for me really figuring out what does it mean to just be, right? Not perform being, but just be. And it's been interesting, especially if you are doing entrepreneurship where you ain't helping people get a bag, you ain't telling people how to get a big ass or a snatched waist, right? When you are in the entrepreneurship or if you are in the healing space and you telling people, oh, you don't have to do more than clap your hands, spin around and burn some sage for this to work. So we're gonna have to do some work for real. It might take a while. People are like, fuck that. I want the easy breezy, quick way to heal. Like, this ain't that, and it's been hard being in that space, right? Just being really real with people that this journey is hard as hell and it's beautiful and it's ugly and it's joyful and it's silly and it's all of these things. But you
Yeah.
gotta commit to it. And commitment today might look very different than commitment tomorrow. Commitment today might be
Absolutely.
I got up off my ass and I went to the porch and I said hi to the trees and got my ass back in the bed. Like that might be that might be it. But yeah, you can't sell healing.
Oh, no, 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 no.
People
I've
can.
actually realized like you have to live it.
Mm,
You like literally like I say in the group all the time, like we're living this in real time. Everyone's like, oh my
mhm.
God, how do we figure it out? In real time,
You're
we're
doing it.
doing it. Like,
Hmm.
what are we supposed to be doing? And I'm always saying, we doing it.
Hmm.
We are actually just doing it in real time. And that's why what you're saying about the part about owning the story, until you stop and slow down and get it out, you don't really know what you're doing.
Mm, hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, we're not talking about, we're not selling waist trainers, we're not selling Mary Kay, we're not teaching people how to become millionaires,
Mhm.
which is the biggest scam of the
Mhm.
biggest scam. We're not teaching manifestation,
Mhm.
uh,
Mindset.
mindset. What else is a good one? Well, I'm
Mm,
kind of self development. We're like out here really trying to do. This is, I think, the hardest part is like when you're talking about healing.
mhm.
That is people are just like, no,
And I get it. Like we're doing it, so we know this shit ain't easy. We know, right? We know that it's not. And still, it's like you can be stripped of everything and not have shit left. And in those moments, you can feel the freest you've ever have before. It might be vulnerable as fuck. You might be like, oh shit. But it's like once you take all this shit away, there's nothing left but myself. There's no more performance to perform.
no, that's it. And it's like I've been sharing lately. I got another one to share, the accountability victim loop or something like that.
Mm.
And it's like,
Mhm.
I think it's on my Instagram.
Mhm.
It's somewhere. Yeah, the accountability and victim loop. I found another name for it. But
Mhm.
it's just like once you by yourself, you gotta recognize, own, forgive yourself. That's something I've learned through you. Examine, learn, and take action. So it's like
Mhm.
you lose everything, and it's you want to sit around and be like, "Oh, woe is me, and I ain't got this," and
Mhm.
oh no, how I'm gonna pay my bills. Well, for me,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my God, how I'm gonna pay my rent next week.
Mhm.
Oh, wait, it's summertime, kids see summer camp. Oh, wait, oh, I gotta go to the Bay Area next week. How I'm gonna get there.
Mhm.
And if like for me, it's just like, you know what? Let me see if I got some Southwest points.
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? Let me just tell my friend, hey, I know I owe you money, but I need you to wait.
Mhm.
Hey, you know what? Let me just tell my team we gonna be a little backed up, but when I say we gonna do it, we gonna do it.
Mhm.
It's it feels free because it's like now that I've surrendered and there's nothing, I have no choice but to shift,
Mhm.
which is not easy, which
Mhm.
is hard,
Mhm.
which is grueling because it's
Mhm.
the moments of like, and I might be done with this line and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was fun. Now what?
Mhm. Yep.
But that's the journey.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, it was a period ago, a couple of years ago, when I was attempting to be obedient, and I let my office go where I worked at as a therapist, and that next year, my account was negative every day. Um, I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this? And I chose to do that versus before when I got kicked in my back because universe like, oh, you hard headed. Okay, cool. Watch me snatch all your shit from you. When I lost my job, next year got divorced. I got 3 damn kids. They just going to school, go to 2 different schools, and I'm like, how am I supposed to make this work? Right? So same, not the same, but similar situations where you just kind of like, what the fuck? And so I think we forget, and my partner reminded me, like, do you ever think about how much you've gotten through? Like, do you ever really sit and think about how much you've already done? And I was like, no, because we got to keep it going forward. I got time to look back. You might want to pause, and think about what you've already accomplished. And I would invite all of us to do that. Like, really think about what you've done, because it's like I called Leap, to get help with my goddamn light bill and gas bill, so that shit would get cut off. I got on Medicaid. I did whatever the fuck I had to do, right? I paid into that shit. Run me my damn benefits, please. You know what I mean? Give me my benefits. And I did what I had to do, and thank God and universe, whatever, I still have my house. You know what I mean? We still got what we need, but it was hard. That year and a half, every day I was crying. Every day I'm like, this is stupid. This is dumb.
Yep.
But got through it,
Oh, I know. And it's a thank you for sharing that. Like, because that's very helpful to hear that part of your story and hear how you're getting through it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're just getting through it. And even if it's a practice or a process, like, it's a slow, steady practice. It's a slow, steady process. Like, I remember, shit, tell so many stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's the practice of, that's what I was getting to. It's, the practice of the Sankofa. You know what I'm saying? When we get into kind of African traditional religions where the bird, its feet are forward, but it's looking back with the egg in its mouth so that we do remember. Because it's like in that remembrance is like yeah. Do I like just saying that? Like, I remember sitting in my kitchen interviewing white women because I wanted them to share their stories so that they could hear themselves and be like, oh shit, I got work to do. And have other white women hear those stories. You know what I'm saying? I remember that Check Your Privilege was supposed to, it funds a nonprofit. It was Brown Sisters Speak at that time. And just in reflection, sometimes you got to get slowed down so you can remember, why was I doing this? What was the impact and what am I really supposed to be doing?
Yeah. Remembering your why.
Yep.
Because like you said, once you get so into especially if you grow, right? If you grow and the mission becomes bigger than you, sometimes you can get lost. Like, why am I even still doing? What's the point? What's the purpose? And going back to, like you said, to your original why. Was this even the point? What was the point originally? Yeah.
Yeah.
They said so many stories. So many stories.
There's so much that we could talk about, but I think what's very helpful for me in this moment, hearing your stories and sharing, gave me the courage for me to share a little bit of my own stuff because, some people might see things happen or see people talking about things with me. And for me, it's really, I could get really caught up in like oh my God, what are people going to think if they hear somebody else's perspective about what I'm doing or what I'm saying or how I'm behaving or how I've caused harm? And it's just been really great to have you be like, tell your own story. If you own it, say it again? If you own it, can't nobody use it against you. Is that what it is?
Yeah, they can't use it against you. They can't use it to hold it over your head. They can't use it to manipulate you, because it's out there. And like you said, you tell your story with the accountability. If you cause harm, you own it, and then you make corrective action. You know what I mean? I've caused harm. You know what I mean? How many of us walking the earth have not caused harm? And there's different levels of harm, right? You know what I mean? And only thing you can do now in the present moment is look back and learn from it. It's the people who keep making the same motherfucking mistakes we got to look at and worry about. But if you learn from the harm you've caused, and you know what I mean? Just because you own it doesn't mean that people are going to forgive you either. So we got to also remember that. You can own it, and then the other person choosing to accept It's their choice. The only thing you can do is take accountability and move forward. Whether that person or whatever situation rectifies or not, it is what it is. But you got to do what you have to do, and that is own it, make restitution, if at all possible, and keep moving forward.
What do you do if you're owning it
Hmm.
and people are still bringing up the harm that you caused?
Bringing it up to you, or just bringing it up in general?
Just bringing it up to you.
Okay. Well, if they still have access to me, right? If you're still in my presence and I've caused you harm and I'm no longer causing you harm and I've already apologized and did whatever I can do to make restitution, then why are you still in my face if you're still upset?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I've done all I can do and you're still upset about it, but you're still also choosing to remain in relationship with me. So then the question becomes why? What are you getting out of remaining in relationship with a person who you obviously don't forgive, or you're using the harm I caused in the past to manipulate me or manipulate this situation? Because now it's not about me, it's about you, right? Because I've done my part. So now the question is, what are you doing, and for what purpose?
Right.
That's what I would say to
Yeah,
that.
that's one thing I've always wondered. It's like, you take ownership, you do your thing, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, but and then also like I know people like as you're growing and changing. So like let's say you caused harm in 1966
Mm-hmm.
or like 6 months ago, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're growing and changing.
Mm-hmm.
You just because you just know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect people to see that growth either though.
That's true. Like if I when I worked with couples, right? Say there was infidelity, and the thing about it is like, are you all wanting to reconcile and move forward? If you are wanting to reconcile and move forward, then you are also making an agreement that you will not continue to hold the transgression over their head, because you cannot heal and move forward if you're always operating from the previous pain, right? So it's like this is requiring both parties to make a decision that we are going to move forward with the understanding that there's an opportunity for you to prove your trustworthiness now. But if I keep hitting you over the head with your transgression, then you're never giving me the space to move forward and to prove to you that I have the capacity to be a different person, because you keep bringing the past to the right now. So how the fuck are we going to move forward to the future if the past is still present, right? And some people want to be in the past because it gives them leverage, it gives them power, you know.
Yeah, on this healing journey, and you talking about telling your story. I never can understand people who want to just keep like you did this, you did, and you're just like,
I've
I
been that
did it.
person. I've been that person because it's easier to be a victim and to use that. It's a form of power. Like if I am the perpetual victim, if I can keep pointing at you and say you fucked up, you fucked up, you fucked up, then I don't have to take accountability because you're the problem, right? At least that's what I'm
Mm.
saying. It takes a lot more effort to be like, okay, you're doing what you can do. So if there's still an issue, if I'm still having issues, and you're obviously not the cause of it anymore, then am I the problem? Ooh, I don't want to be the problem. So let me go back to blaming your ass because that's easier,
Right.
So people do things for purpose. People rarely do things without them getting something out of it, whether it's good, bad, or something in between. If a person is remaining in a place where they're still complaining about it, they're getting something out of it on some level.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. I think the most powerful part of our conversation today is just the storytelling piece and just
Mm-hmm.
owning all of the parts of myself and hearing
Mm-hmm.
you own the parts of yourself
Mm-hmm.
and that not a lot of blaming of other people. I think sometimes when we talk about owning our story,
Mm-hmm.
there's always, but this person did this, but this person did that. And I'm actually kind of glad that check your privilege died because I was getting pulled back into the like, those people over there and you and I'm like, I was told like 2 years ago that's not the direction anymore. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of glad because I'm able to kind of like reel it in. It's like it's not about what other people are doing. People
Mm-hmm.
gonna be people.
Mm-hmm.
People are looking for power. People are looking for
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what's my role in it, and how do I? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I could potentially drag my ex, but for what, right? Because at the end of the day, I learned a lot about myself, right? The fact that I'm a horrible enabler, or at least I used to be. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that I would cripple someone by not holding them accountable, then be upset when they don't have the capacity to do what needs to be done. Like you were never training for me to pass you this baton when I needed you because I benched you, right? I was like, no, no, I got it. You sit your ass down. I'm gonna do it. And then when I needed you to do something, you was like, well, shit, I don't know what the hell you looking at me for. You've been taking care of it for the last 9 years. Now you want me to help because I allowed that. Now, granted, I was young, and everything else. But and also I wasn't perfect by any means, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I learned a lot about myself being in relationship with others, romantically or otherwise, and because of that, I've been able to move differently because of that awareness. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any last thoughts for the folks just around owning their stories? Any words of encouragement?
Just shame keeps us silent, right? And silence makes us vulnerable to being manipulated. It makes us vulnerable to being used and abused. And so I invite, even if you feel like you can't share with others, start by just writing it down to yourself. Start really breaking that I don't even know, that prison of not only your story can form around you, right? Just write it out to
Yeah.
yourself, you know? Yeah, yeah. Break that shame.
Break the cycle of shame. And one of my favorite authors, Bell Hooks, says that shame is one of the deepest tools of imperialist, capitalist, white supremacist, ableist patriarchy.
Mm.
Shame produces trauma, and
Mhm.
trauma produces paralysis.
There you go.
There we go.
Hmm.
And then with my favorite, Bell Hooks. Thank you for your time today, Doc.
No problem.
And thank you all for watching, and we will see you all soon.
All right.
Everyone.